Okay, so we're working on solving inequalities again. Solving inequalities. And the big idea is these are not equal. It's not a limiting thing, it's an expanding thing. If I say x is greater than 3, we no longer say the only answer is 3. X can be all the possibilities greater than 3. 4, 5, 6, to 1,000, to 1,000,000, to infinity. So we can draw this as a number line, and graphs help us see things in a visual way, of course, that make it more sense. Will allow us to make better sense of it. You can see the arrow means 4, 5, 6. All these numbers are totally okay. I also used a hollow point, because I'm not allowed to touch 3. So mathematicians came up with these very specific ways of writing things. Versus x is greater than or equal to 3. In this case, we draw a solid circle at 3. And this is still to the right. So this is included. Well, we use the word included. This is solid. So visually, you can see solid means I can use it. Hollow means I cannot include it, not included. Again, if we relate this to sports, in basketball, when you have the ball, you cannot step on the line. You cannot touch that point. If not, you'll be out. While in soccer, if you have the ball, you can touch the line. That's not a problem. You can even run outside the line, but the ball can't. Okay. So we're going to go through, last time we did one-step equations. So we said, for instance, if I say 3x less than equals to 9, the idea is we want to solve for 1. So we want to get rid of the 3. We always ask ourselves, what is that 3 doing? Because I want to get rid of it. Opposite of multiply is divide. Let's go ahead and divide that out of the way. X is less than or equal to 3. And the idea is, if I was asked to come up with numbers that work, here, you just have to randomly guess. I think 2 works. I think 1 works. I think 3 works. But if I told you the solution was x is less than or equal to 3, all these answers that fit here work here. So I'm giving you a definitive saying, hey, this is true. That means it would work for your big problem. So we're not just guessing, we're solving for a definitive answer. Okay. And in this case, let's draw it out. Here's 0, here's 3, and it's solid because we are equal to and we are less than. All the numbers are less than 3. This graph, just to write it, we could spin this around. And if I write it this way, would it mean the same thing? Oops. Would this mean the same thing? X is bigger, X is greater than all my answers. Well, X is greater than 2, hey, that's an answer. X is greater than 1, that's an answer. Okay. We can say X is less than 3. X is less than 3. Okay, so we talked about 1 variable. Let's do 2 variable. Sorry, 1 step. Let's do 2 step now. So today we're doing 2 step, and then we're going to move that to advance. So 3x plus 2 is less than 8. So we're just taking your time. The reason why we're taking our time here is because I really want you guys to be good when it comes to solving for x, moving variables around to the other side of the equation. We're gonna, in this case, remind ourselves solving for x, that's here. So we have to get rid of not only the 3, but also the 2. Hopefully you guys are getting better at this. Which one do we get rid of first? The one that's close to the x or far away from the x? The way I try to get it stuck in your brain, get rid of stuff that's farthest away. So the 2 is farthest away, so we're gonna subtract the 2 to both sides. 3x is less than 6. Almost done, divide by 3 to both sides. X is less than 2. Now to just draw a number line, here's 2, here's 0, and x is less than draw a hollow, and anything less than it should work. The idea is that this should be the solution for this crazy problem over here. Let me write this over here. 3x plus 2 is less than 8. Now, let's plug in some numbers. Well, 1 is less than 2. If I plug in 1, that becomes 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2 is 5. Well, 5 is less than 8. If I plug in 0, 3 times 0 is 0. 2 is less than 8. Negative 1, that'll be negative 3. Plus 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 is less than 8. Yeah, all these values work. But what if I try the number 3? And if you look here, 3 is not where that line follows. Okay? It's not in that arrow. If I plug in 3, 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 is not less than 8. 9 is not less than 8. Okay? So it gives us a definitive answer for all our possibilities. Let's take a look at another one. If I say 3 over 2x is greater than or equal to 9. So I'm going to do this in 2 steps and then follow up with doing this in 1 step. And some of you guys already know how to do this, but let me talk it out just to make sure it's okay in your brain. What's the opposite of divide by 2? Opposite of divide by 2 is multiply by 2. So if I multiply it by 2 on both sides, we end up with 3x greater than or equal to 18. Second step, opposite of multiply by 3 is divide by 3. X is greater than 6, greater than or equal to 6. So we could always do this as a 2-step problem. Get rid of the division. Hey, that's a 3x now. Then get rid of the 3. But there's a faster way. 3 over 2x is greater than 9. Now, we can do this all in one move. The opposite of divide by 2 is times 2. The opposite of multiply by 3 is divide by 3. And if you remember, seen this before, the 3's divide out and the 2's divide out, leaving me an invisible 1. Now, I want to show you guys another way of thinking about this. When you're multiplying fractions, you multiply the top by the top and the bottom by the bottom. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 2 is 6. What's 6 divided by 6? Isn't that just 1? So another way of thinking about it is you could have multiplied it, but we work in a different way. We say, you know what? We just divide them out because 3 divided by 3 is 1 and 2 divided by 2 is 1. Greater than 6, so greater than 9, I don't know, greater than 9. Whoops. So on the right side, I made a mistake. I don't know why I did that. It's you have to copy the operation that you do on the left side to the right side because that's equal, that's fair. If I multiply one side of the equal sign by 2 over 3, I have to multiply the other side by 2 over 3 also. In this case, so I want to remind you guys how to do this. You can either multiply, so that's like an invisible 1, 9 over 1. 9 times 2 is 18, and 18 divided by 3 is 6. But I would love it if everyone divides first. What's 9 divided by 3? That's just 3. And 3 times 2 is 6. So whenever you have a fraction, I always highly recommend to divide first. Here's another dumb one. If I say 20, oops, just on the side, 20 divided by 4 times 6. A lot of different options to do this from. A whole lot of different options. One, you could say 20 divided by 4, that's 5. 5 times 6 is 30. Another option, you could multiply 20 and 6, and this becomes 120 divided by 4. And 120 divided by 4. This is like the worst option, right? Because you have a huge number on top. 12 divided by 4 is still 3. That's still 30. Here's another option. What if I say 6 divided by 4, those simplify out to become 3 and 2. Hey, doesn't 20 divide out too? That's just 10. The only numbers I have left are 3 and 10. It's 30. A lot of different options when your basics are really good. Let's try this one more time. Pick another set of numbers. I'll pick 100. And we'll do 5. I'm going to multiply this by 20. We could say 20 times 100 is 2,000, and then divide that by 5. But that's always like the last resort way, the last resort. You could, how many can I divide 100 by 5? That seems like a big number, isn't it? You could do it. And that's going to give us 20. And then we can say this is actually 20 times 20. You could do that, which is 400. Now, here's our easier way. What's 20 divided by 5? That's just 4. This becomes a 1. 4 times 100 is 400. Same answer. Turns out 5 goes into 20 4 times. That's 400. So if you have a hard time with fractions, I would say you just have to practice it a couple more times so it clicks in your brain, and then it's actually not that hard anymore. But we have to practice, and we can't get good at something unless if we practice. Okay, let's move on. Now, we had a rule for inequalities, and this is just a reminder. If I say negative 3x is less than or equal to 12. And the rule is if I ever have to divide or multiply across by a negative, divide or multiply by across by a negative, we have to flip that inequality. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Positive divided by negative is negative. Okay, just as a reminder, I keep having to re-talk about this. What if I write 2 minus 4x is less than, let's do 14. Okay, just for this problem, we want to solve for x. We want to get rid of the 2 and the 4. So what's farthest away? I think the 2 is farther away. How many guys always forget to copy that negative sign? I would raise my hand. Then we divide by negative 4. As you can see, we divided by negative. That means we have to flip the inequality. Now, one way of looking at this, okay, here's a way of looking at it. If I told you a negative sign makes you weak, right? If you're a $100 guy and put negative, now you owe me $100. If you're a $1,000 guy and I give you a negative, now you owe me $1,000. Okay, so the negative makes you weak. So if I put my negative on this side and I move it over to the other side, isn't the right side weak now? You have to remind yourself that we have to flip that inequality to demonstrate that. Okay? If I move over the weakness to the other side's weak now. That's one way of thinking about it. Okay, so for the homework, you guys are not only going to solve, but you guys are going to graph these problems. So let's make these problems look a little bit more tough. So we have variables on both sides. Negative 18 minus 7 minus 10d is less than or equal to negative 5d plus 15. First rule is to figure out what are our like terms. Like terms. So I have 18 and 7, those are like terms. And then I have the d and d, those are like terms. So now combine these. So negative 18, negative 7 become negative 25. Now, you make a choice. I have negative 10d and negative 5d. Which side actually has more d's? The negative 10 or the negative 5? Now think of this as money. Which one's richer? Negative 10 or negative 5? They both are negative, but negative 5 is actually greater than negative 10 because it's less negative. Looking at a number line, a lot of people get confused by this. This is negative 5, this is negative 10. Negative 5 is greater than 10 because it's on the right side. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move the 10 over using opposite operations. Oops, made a mistake there. 10 minus 5. 10 minus 5 is 5. Now this leads us to a two-step problem. Minus 15 on both sides. 25 and 15. I've done this so many times, it's going to be 40. 30, 5 is 10, so 40. And divide both sides by 5. My question here is, did we move over a negative? Did we divide over that weakness? No, we didn't. Now, I'm going to do this same problem, but I'm going to do it right here. Let's write negative 25 minus 10d is less than or equal to negative 5d plus 15. What if I move the d's to not the incorrect side, but just the less easy side? What if I move this one over here? So we're going to add 5d to both sides. And we're going to end up with negative 25 minus 5d less than equal to 15. Okay, so we're going to add 25 to both sides. Negative 5d less than 40. Now, this problem looks just like this right here, except the inequality is flipped and the negative is on the wrong side. But if I divide by a negative, look, I'm bringing over my weakness. You brought over your weakness to our house. D is greater than, because we have to flip the inequality, negative 8. Are these two the same answers? Take a look here. Are these two the same answers? D is greater than little tiny 8. D is greater than little tiny negative 8. Yeah, the same answer. Though they're written in the different order, that inequality took care of it still. Still followed it along. Okay. Let's do one last one. If I give you guys a parentheses, okay, just made this one up. So for these types of problems, my recommendation at this level is to just multiply out the parentheses. Multiply them, multiply, multiply, multiply. So it becomes 6d plus 3 less than negative 10d plus 8. Just multiply out your parentheses. And then we're left with the problem that we had before, where we have d's on both sides. Would you like the d's on the left or the right? I'm seeing which one is greater, the left, right? 6. So if I add 10, if you decide to minus 6, that's okay. That's 100% okay. This is an 8. Then I minus 3 to both sides. 16d is less than 5. Okay. 16d is less than 5. Then we just have to divide. We're done. Divide by 16. D is equal to less than 5 over 16.